Hi, boys and girls. Today we're going to be talking about the order of operations. You learned this all the way back in Unit 1, and we've already gone over the steps. Your teacher will probably call it PEMDAS. Some teachers I've seen call it BIMDAS, which all it is it reminds you if you have a problem with more than one operation. So if I look over here, I have an addition and multiplication in one problem. That lets me know I need to go to my order of operations to tell me what should I do first. Remember, it's like a set of instructions. So if I look over here, number one says I would look first, are there any parentheses or brackets? Some teachers call them all brackets. So parentheses or brackets. The second thing I would look for is exponents, but we do not see exponents until 6th grade. And the third thing we look for is multiplication or division. And we always go from left to right because multiplication and division are equal. And then our last step is always addition or subtraction, and I go from left to right, and again, addition and subtraction are equal, so it's whichever one comes first. So now looking at this example, this is what I gave you to review before you started. So let's see if you remember about the order of operations. I'm going to actually work this out two different ways, and we're going to see which way that you did and why one of them is correct and why these can be so tricky. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do it the way some of you might have done it. 9 plus 3 is 9, 10, 11, 12. And I know that I would write that down, and then I would rewrite the rest of my problem because now that's done. So now I have a new problem, 12 times 6. Well, I know my multiplication tables, and 12 times 6 is 72. So maybe that was the answer. So now let's try it a different way. I want you to also ask yourself as you're going through, if I know it's more than one operation, I should be asking myself questions. Did I ask myself any questions when I was working this problem? Okay, I see a problem with two different types of operations. I'm going to come over here. Are there any parentheses? Nope. Are there any exponents? Of course not. Is there any multiplication or division? Yes, I see multiplication and division right here. So the first thing I'm going to do is that step. So the first thing I'm going to do is rewrite my problem. 9 plus, and then I'm going to replace it. What is 3 times 6? Well, 3 times 6 is 18. Okay, so now I have 9 plus 18. I'm going to go back. Guess what? I only have one step left, and the only thing I have left to do is just to add. So 9 plus 18, I may need to even write it down. Please don't miss a problem on the last step just because you didn't write it down. Sometimes it's going to take some writing down for some of you. 9 plus 8 is 17. Carry my 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. So my actual answer is 27. So looking at this, my answer is 27. It is not 72. But guess what? That's going to be an answer choice if I ever have a multiple choice question test. So please be careful. Make sure that you're asking yourself those questions. Okay, so here's our example. So the first example that I see over here, it has 3 plus 2. I have to remind myself, what does it mean when I have a number next to a parenthesis? Oh yeah, it means to multiply. So I'm going to multiply. So after I find the answer to this, I will need to multiply. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write out the word PEMDAS up here. This is something I do every time I see a problem that has more than one operation in the problem. And I see addition, subtraction, and multiplication. So the first thing I say, are there any parentheses? Yes. So there are my parentheses. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have to do 6.2 minus 3. Now I have to think, what do I know when I add and subtract decimals? Oh yeah, I need to line up my place value. So I have 6.2 minus 3. So where's the 3 going to go? It's going to go in the ones place. So it's going to go right here. And your teacher may have told you you could add a decimal, and you can always add a 0 over here to the side. So 2 minus 0 is 2. And I remind myself my decimal comes straight down. And then 6 minus 3 is 3. So now I know I'm going to replace this whole part right here with 3.2. And now what's my next step? Rewrite my question. 3 plus 2, excuse my handwriting, times 3.2. All right. So now I'm here. Okay, so I've done parentheses. There are some more parentheses, but remember, does this really mean parentheses? No. So are there any exponents? No. Is there any multiplication or division? Yes, right here. So remember, when I have a number beside a parenthesis, it means to multiply. So I'm going to have 3.2 times 2. Now, what are my rules for multiplying decimals that you just learned in this unit? Remind yourself you don't have to line up the place value when you multiply. And in fact, you kind of ignore that decimal place altogether, and it's like you're doing 32 times 2 at first. So 2 times 2 is 4, and 2 times 3 is 6. And then I can't forget my very last step as I go back up here and I look to see how many place values do I have behind the decimal. I have 1 here and my decimal's here, so I don't have any. So how many place values do I have? I have 1 to the right. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to move my decimal. So this part is 6 4/10. So now I'm going to rewrite my question. So now I have 3 plus 6.4. So now all I have left is add and subtract, and I only have addition. So again, since I'm adding, I have to remind myself about my placement of my decimal, and I'm going to add them. And where am I going to put my 3? It's a whole 3, so it's going to go right there. And I can add my decimal and my 0. Okay, now we're to our last step. So now I'm just going to add 4 plus 0 is 4. Bring my decimal point straight down. And then 6, 7, 8, 9. So 6 plus 3 is 9. So my answer is 9 4/10. Okay, so again, just remind yourself, I used all of my order of operations up here. The only thing I had to remember is my decimal rules. So now this one looks a little longer and a little harder. So let's try it. First thing I'm going to do, which you should do every time, is write down your steps. PEMDAS. Okay, so first step, are there any parentheses? No. Are there any exponents? No. Is there any multiplication or division? Yes, right here. So if I'm doing multiplication or division, I'm doing multiplication division of decimals, so I've got to remember my rules. So I'm going to do 5.2 times 6. And again, since we're multiplying decimals, remember our rules are we ignore the decimal point at first. So it's like 52 times 6. 6 times 2 is 12. Carry my 1. 6 times 5 is 30, plus 1 is 31. And then a really important step is I need to look and see how many places behind a decimal do I have. I don't have any decimals in this number. This number has 1. So that means down here in my answer, I'm going to have 1 place to the right of my decimal. So now let's go back over here. I know I'm going to replace this with 31.2. So now the next step I'm going to do is rewrite my problem. 4 plus 31.2 minus 3.1. All right, so the next thing I need to do is go back up here. Is there any more multiplication or division? No. Is there any addition or subtraction? Yes, and I go from order from left to right. So the first one I come across is this one right here. So that means I need to add 31.2 plus 4. Now, where's the 4 going to go? It's the whole number 4. It needs to go in the ones place. So it's going to go right here. And if I want to put a decimal and a 0 right here, I could. 2 plus 0 is 2. Bring my decimal straight down. 4 plus 1 is 5. And then 3 plus nothing is 3. So now I go over here and I have 35.2, or 35 2/10. And then I'm done with this part. And now I need to make sure I don't forget this last step. Minus 3.1. Okay, last step. I go, are there any more addition or subtraction? It's the last thing there. So sometimes you can kind of use your numbers. Since I've already written 35.2 right here, I'm just going to use it again, and I'm going to say 35.2 minus 3.1. And remember, on subtraction, I have to line up my place value. Some people will say line up your decimal, but when they say that, they actually mean just line up your place value. I go 2 minus 1 is 1, 5 minus 3 is 2, and then 3 minus nothing is 3. And then I have to remember my decimal comes straight down. Okay, so just remember, you have to think about all your rules. Okay, and here is the nice clean version. A lot better than my handwriting. But you can see, you just have to think about, like on this one, this is something you can always remind yourself to is, look, I have addition, multiplication, subtraction. So how many steps is it going to take me? It's going to take me 1, 2, and then I get my answer at the third step. Same thing here. I have addition, multiplication, subtraction. So I have 3 steps. So it should be 1, 2, and then my answer. So make sure you're looking, make sure you don't miss a step, and make sure that you write down your entire problem each time, just like you would with your normal order of operation problems. Okay, I hope you enjoy this activity and you learn a lot.